In today's gospel, Jesus really throws the cat amongst the pigeons. This is one of those moments where the rubber really hits the road for us as followers of Christ. Jesus starts by saying, "You've heard that it is said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I tell you, love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you." This is really difficult stuff. This is meat and potatoes, bread and butter Christianity, and it's Christianity at its most difficult, because for all of us, it is extremely hard to overcome that desire to hate people who we deem to have done wrong to us, to hold bitterness or resentment against people who we deem to have done things to us that are harmful or hurtful. But this is one of these fundamental calls and tenets of our Christian faith. And it was no less shocking and scandalous to Jesus' listeners as it is to us today, because we live in a culture today which places a high value on dominance and being on top and winning and not losing and not surrendering. But the same was true in the time of Christ as well. In fact, just to understand how shocking this was to his original listeners, he was talking to a group of people whose homelands were being occupied by a brutal, persecuting, invading force. The very fact that the Roman army occupied the Jewish homelands made those lands unclean. And yet Jesus says to those people, you have got to love your enemy and to pray for those who persecute you. So today, perhaps something concrete we can do to live out this gospel calling is to start by thinking about the people that perhaps we hold bitterness in our hearts towards, the people that might have wronged us in some way, no matter how serious, and asking for the grace to truly forgive, to love, and to pray for those people for their good and their well-being as well. There's an old saying that goes like this: when you're praying for people, you don't have time to pray on people. If we want to be someone who truly lives out this calling to love our enemies and to pray for those who persecute us, we have to pray for the grace to be able to do that. We have to spend time actually concretely in our prayer praying for those people. Today's saint quote of the day comes from St. Paul of the Cross, and he said this: "The passion of Jesus is a sea of sorrows, but it is also an ocean of love. Ask the Lord to teach you to fish in this ocean. Dive into its depths. No matter how deep you go, you will never reach the bottom." And when I was reading that quote, it really spoke to me about today's gospel reading, to love our enemy and to pray for those who persecute us. To do this, you really need a deep ocean of love. You need an ocean of love that is beyond yourself. You need to go outside of yourself and to dive into the fullness of God's love in order to be able to have the grace to be able to return just a small amount of that love, especially for those who we deem to have done harm or wrong to us. I was also thinking about that quote, and I realised there's a great risk when you think about it, about diving into an ocean, especially going deep. There's lots of hazards and risks in ocean swimming and ocean diving. But there is also great, profound wonder and flourishing and fullness of experience to be found in taking that risk. And so it is with taking the risk of diving deeply into the love of God. And it's only by diving deeply into that love and allowing it to saturate our own hearts and minds that we are going to be capable of living out today's gospel call to love our enemies and to pray for those who persecute us.